We're starting a new message series and on the primary colors, and we're going to get started in this segment. But I just wanted to highlight some of the things that happened this past week. So I don't know how your week was. Just full, I guess. Let me pull my slides up. Very exciting. All right. Is this good? Do we do it? Okay. All right. So today is the start of our series, but this past week we did, open homes. So that's a chance for you guys to get to know some of us, members of our church, and different people opening up their homes and just having lots of yummy food at our house. We weren't cooking, but it was Darwin and Jessica, and we had beef noodle soup, and dim sum. So I'm hungry right now. This is a bad idea to start with I love food so much, but it's a very biblical principle. Anyway, we had open homes, different people were hanging out, so just really enjoyed that time. We're going to be shifting gears with the open homes this week. It's going to be by class, and you'll just talk to your small group leader, and you can figure out where you're going to be. Freshmen in particular, you have a special outing on Saturday, so if you want to participate in that, we're going to go to Torrey Pines and then eat dinner together at Kenton and Jackie's place, and then I think it's a haunted corn maze afterwards. So look out for that. There's sign-ups outside when you fellowship, so go check that out. SDSU, they had a nice bonfire at the beach, and it was very nice. Wow. I'm sure they're eating lots of good food here too. So, all right, and then A2F here this past Friday, we did A2F rec. We had badminton, basketball, volleyball, crafts, and outdoors. So it was fun. Took over all of Muir Court. So if you're interested, please join us on Friday nights. It's just a chill hangout time. We have dinner together, and then just play sports. And we did get a room for this Friday. So I know some people were doing crafts last week, and it was nice you were painting, but then the fog just descended. And it was like this right here. I don't know if you can see this. It's very artistic looking, but it's just all fog. We just couldn't barely see the ball. So anyway, but we got a room for this Friday. After we eat together, you can go to a separate place to do crafts. Also want to highlight our Frost Soft Bible study every Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. here in Six College. So this is time we gather with freshmen and sophomores. We're covering the book of Luke. So it's a time of group study, so personal study, group study, kind of discuss it, and then I wrap up with a short message at the end. But it's a good chance to get to know other freshmen and sophomores, so I encourage you guys to check it out. We always have dinner, so always welcome 6:30 to about 8:30. All right, so that's kind of it for the highlights of the week. And before we have a special skit for today to start us off. And before we jump into it, though, I want to kind of give a little context. So we started this 3-part series, and I think about a week ago, I was doing an interview with the newspaper. I'm not famous or anything at all. This guy, he just does it's like the newspaper that you never see. It's called the San Diego Reader, and you'll never read it, I'm sure. But he just wanted to profile different pastors, and I was like, okay, sure, I'll talk to you. And he's like, so if you could only give one message before you die, what would it be? And I was like, dude, this is so much pressure. And but I blurted out The Rich Fool. So it's from Luke chapter 12, and it's, I was like, there's so many messages I would want to give. I'm a preacher. I love to talk, right? That's in my DNA. So, but this message, I think, it really captures what we're talking about today, that life is short. And he was like, wait, you're going to give a message about life is short to college students? Just when they start college? Isn't that kind of a downer? I was like, yeah, that's a downer. Because I'm telling them death is coming, the Baptist bus, you don't know what's going to happen once you walk out this door, And I was like, well, actually, the reason I think it's a good message for students is because time is short, and you probably will live a full 80 years, but how you end up living the rest of that time happens, the decisions and trajectory of your life happens within these 4 years. So life is short in that you have a short period of time to figure out what the rest of your life really is going to be about. And so I think that's part of what today's message is, and the skit today will kind of capture that idea, okay? So, and it's not that the other, because college is the best time to answer those questions, most important. Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? Who are my people? These are the most important questions. And it's not that other questions about your career, your marriage, these things don't matter. But in the end, you realize those are much more peripheral than these bigger questions of life. And I hope that college can really be the time where you get those questions answered in a deep, satisfying life changing way. So with that, I'd like our skit team to come on, and they will do the skit for us. So let's give them a round of applause.
Isn't it wonderful? I just love the way the moon shimmers over the frigid waters. I feel as if I'm in a dream.
A dream? Indeed. Oh, pinch me, just pinch me. Although, there is one problem.
What is it, dear?
Ugh, it's this furniture. I don't much care for the way it's been arranged.
We could rearrange it ourselves after we decide a better place to put that painting.
The ship is sinking! We're all gonna drown!
What is he getting so worked up about? Good heavens, you think the ship was sinking? Huh.
Ugh, I can't wear this. Simply clashes with my outfit.
Brace yourself! Whoa! Whoa!
Oh, I wonder what all that fuss is about.
It seems the ship is having some problems, but never mind all that. We can figure that out later. For now, let's forget about everything else and soak in this moment. We have all the time in the world.
You're right. This is a trip we'll never be able to take again. What is this ship called again?
The Titanic.
All right, let's give them another big round of applause. Okay, while I get set up here, why don't you just turn to your neighbor. What was the point of that skit, okay? So, or just your funniest part, or name your funniest actor, the one that you want to get an autograph of later. So, I'm sure it's John Choi. All right, so anybody want to guess what the point of that skit was? One phrase. Josh Yang, you want to? We did this vignette for, we did this skit for a production we did last spring for A2F called Acts 2 Live, and it was a way for us to communicate the gospel. And this particular point about this skit is, it's like, I guess the phrase that would capture it is rearranging deck furniture on a sinking ship. Like, and what's the point of that, right? It's okay if the ship is a sail and everything is going smoothly, but when it's about sinking like the Titanic, that's the last thing that you want to do. And yet there's something about that that I think we can resonate and understand with. So, and it's the idea that, okay, we got to agree that time is short. Time is short. So that's the first topic of our three-part series of the gospel. And I want to give you this graphic about time. I think it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you can see all of this, but just take a look, okay? And just consider how much, this is the average life of a person, 78 years, and this is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics in the US. So you spend 2.5 years going to the bathroom. That's very important that you know how much. And if you're a reader, that might be longer. But all right, so then there's also, wow, 3.5 years of education, meaning total time. Total time. So from kindergarten to college, probably you're in a classroom for about 3.5 years. Doing chores, I don't know about some of you. I don't know if that's really true, but that's what they say. But look, 9 years of TV, video game, and social networking. This is actually an older statistic, so I think we could probably bump this up. And but 10 years working, 28 years sleeping. And then it essentially comes to this point. In this wheel of life, this pie chart, you're left with something like 9 years. In a more updated schematic, I've seen it about 6 years. And so, of course, if we had an infinite amount of time, we could pursue whatever it is we want in the world, all the different things, pursuits that we'd like. But the point this is making is we have limited time, and therefore, given that limited time, we need to be judicious. We need to be careful about what we do with the time that we have. Given that time is short, it's essential that we ask these questions, like what ought we to do with our lives, given this amount of time? What should the trajectory of our lives look like? Who am I? What is my purpose? Who are my people? These questions that I talked about before. And I know this is kind of a surreal example, but just imagine you're dropped in the middle of a play, like Hamlet. You guys studied Hamlet, maybe? Did you study Hamlet still in high school? All right, forget it, Hamlet. Okay, what play do you guys study in high school? Romeo and Juliet, you still study that? Okay, that's it. Oh, all right. So let's say you're Romeo. No, none of you are Romeos here, right? So I'm just kidding. Juliet, all the sisters are Juliet. You know, you drop into that scene and you come in the middle of the play and you wonder, like, you have to know, who are you? What character are you playing? And depending on what the answers are to that question will determine how you're supposed to live out and be that character. Well, life is a similar reality for all of us. You drop into life and the question is, well, who am I? What is the role that I'm supposed to play that determines how you're supposed to live and what you're going to do? So that's just the first part of this idea that given this amount of time, right, like what will we do with our lives? Now, kind of a playful discussion that I want you guys to have is, okay, imagine though, I gave you 1 more hour per day. You miraculously have 25 hours per day now. What would you do with that extra hour? Okay, why don't you just discuss that with your neighbor, okay? I'll give you 2 minutes. All right, let's wrap up. Anybody just want to share for fun? Anybody want to just sleep? You already got 28 years of sleep. You're going to do more? All right. Your parents should not be happy to hear that, but it's okay. All right. Okay. Others? What else? Yeah? More TikTok. Oh, man. Yeah, uh-huh. Chingy. Hanging out with friends. Yeah, okay. That's TikTok or friends. Yeah, it's tough. Okay, back there. Yeah, Ryan, I see.
I'll spend 30 minutes after waking up, 30 minutes before going to sleep just to like read and reflect on the day.
Okay, wow. Yeah. All right. Somebody else had their hand up back there. Somebody. Charlie?
I said learn a new skill.
Learn a new skill. All right. Well, you just are like super productive people. Just go-getters. All right. Well, as the pastor, you know, I said read more Bible. So, no. Truth be told, what I thought about is I talk to my daughters more. So that's usually how I end up my day. I come back and just like to chat about the day, what happened, and just we talk about all sorts of things. Food, politics, climate change, and recycling, just all sorts of stuff that and I'm not going to tell you what side I lean on any of those things, but just, you know, but it's fun. But I think that gives you a clue, like when you have more time, like what is it that you are drawn toward? And of course there's like, oh, let's gain some more skills, more productivity, but I think like what Jingli and James were saying over there was like, oh, friends. There's something about that, right, where you go, oh, yeah, that would be a good use of that time. Well, we're going to read this text, and hopefully it'll help us understand a little bit more of where we should invest our time, okay? And let me go ahead and read it for you from Luke chapter 12. It's called the parable of the rich fool. This is Jesus, and he said, and he told them a parable, saying, the land of a rich man produced plentifully. And he thought to himself, what shall I do? For I have nowhere to store my crops. And he said, I will do this. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones. And there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, be merry. But God said to him, fool, this night your soul is required of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be? So is the one who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God. All right, so this is a really Fascinating text, one of my favorites, short, like 6-verse, compact, but a lot in here. So just want to give you a chance to discuss with your neighbor. Just take a minute. What are some observations you can make about the man in this text? Okay? So go ahead, circle, underline, and just talk about it. Like, what can you observe about this man based on the description you read? Okay, go for it. All right, let's get back together. So if we look at this text, some observations that I think we can make just from the first verse here, we learn that this is a rich man, and his land, it produced a lot, plentifully. And just right there, I think this captures maybe what many of us have learned or been taught, or we grow up learning and experiencing, that this is what our lives should be like, that we should become wealthy or established, and we should produce plentifully. Like this is like, because no one says you should go to college and you should not have a job and you should become poor. No, they say you should be successful. I think that's what everyone would want to be. And I think this is what we learn from a very young age of how life is meant to be. And isn't this what many of us want? Society teaches us, feeds us this. That's why you get good grades in high school, work hard to get in a good college, to get a good major, to get a good job, to make a lot of money, to attract a spouse who also has a lot of money, to have a family, buy a home, get your next promotion, get that 401k, live a safe, comfortable life, and retire and live happily ever after. So the guy in this parable seems so modern. This is something Jesus spoke about 2,000 years ago, a story that he gives to people who are in abject poverty. So he's talking to peasant people in Palestine, Israel, in that area, and he's saying to them, look, here's a man who made it. He made it big. He hit it rich, wealthy. He worked so hard. He made it so big that it says here, he did not have a place to store his crops. Such a bumper crop, so massive that he had to tear down his barns and build bigger ones. This is like you invested in Bitcoin, Nvidia, Apple, all at the same time. And you made so much money, the bank is like, you can't bank with us. You need to bank with other people because we don't have enough space to hold all your money. And I'm sure many of us have that problem, right? No. Like, no one has that problem. But that's the idea, that it's so massive. But again, isn't this what we're fed throughout all the reels, all the feeds that you see, all the TikTok? People who are, maybe it's not simply wealthy, but it's good looking, beautiful, healthy, dance really well. Like, how do they dance so well? I just cannot believe how well they dance, right? Wow, they're so coordinated. That just is not me. So, and in every which way you look at what we're fed is almost the image and a picture of what we're not. And that's what we're supposed to aspire to in some way, so that you and I become rich or wealthy, producing a lot plentifully, having so much that we've, quote unquote, made it. And for years to come, nothing will affect this man in his economic status. No crisis, no crash to the market. He's so wealthy. Like, does Bill Gates ever care? Or Elon Musk? Oh, the market crashed. They lost 10 billion. Out of 100 billion, like, what's that? I mean, I guess it's still a lot, 10%, but really? Like, they have so much money, they don't even know what to do with it. And yet, that's like the way we are bred to be. Society has called us to be. And what does this man say as he looks at this situation? I think it's very interesting what he says. He doesn't know where to store his crops, so he's got to build bigger ones, tear down the ones. And then he says to himself, I will say to my soul, soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, be merry. I find this fascinating because here he acknowledges, wow, I have a soul. There's something deeper within me. And it's almost a moment of self-realization when he goes, wow, there's something more than just flesh, more than just appetites, more than just giving into my desires. There's something deeper, not simply my physical nature, but there's something inside of me, a heart, something that I feel that lies deeper. But what he says is interesting because he sees that he has a soul that he needs to feed. We're supposed to feed our souls. But what does he feed his soul with? He thinks his soul needs to be fed with stuff, and then he'll be satisfied. And again, I can't help but remark that what Jesus is teaching here is so modern, so relevant for us today. I think we could summarize this man's worldview as life is about the accumulation of many goods and many comforts. like, I don't know, maybe you don't come to college, you come in thinking, I want to be a billionaire. But I think all of us, we all want stability, we all want security, we want just enough to have that 2-car garage with a house with 2.5 kids, just one half cut, and a dog or a cat, or both, because you have such a harmonious house that both can live there. And we aspire for that. And nothing seems wrong with that. I'm not saying anything is wrong with that. But this American dream that we're often sold is all about that, just satisfying our desires, our flesh. The thing is that this view of life is based on a very particular understanding, and that is that we are just flesh. That it's just about feeding our appetites, feeding our desires, whatever it is that we want. I mean, here this man says he has a soul, so what should you feed your soul? It's like putting a square peg in a circular hole. Like, it doesn't fit right. And we try and try and try again. So just feeding ourselves fleshly things, they satisfy, but only so temporarily. I think we would all acknowledge. When I was in high school, before I came to college, you have these poster stores, and this is the poster that I had in my room. You see this? I need 5 sports cars, 1 for each day. That's how I thought my life. And it has to be, okay, this is a Porsche, this is a Ferrari, I think, a Lamborghini, something like that, right? So this is, and I on the other 2 days, on Saturday, I'm gonna fly, and then on Sunday, I'm just gonna take the boat out. So I'm covered all 7 days. I've got transportation. And, my friends and I, we would, buy like Road and Track or Car and Driver, and we're so into cars and think, wow, that's what's gonna make me set. And why did we do what we were doing? Why did I study? Why did I do the SAT? Run for this club or that club, take 10 clubs, do 2 sports, so that I can fill my life and my garage with luxury cars, live by a house by the sea, own a helicopter and a yacht, and pretty much move to San Diego, I'm like almost there. But actually, no, I'd have like nothing of like this, right? But this is like all of us in some shape or form. We see this. We're fed this. And again, it may not be like such a luxurious living, but it's some kind of living in which all our creature comforts are so deeply satisfied because we think that's actually what will make us happy. And you don't need posters to tell you this. It's in your feed as soon as you wake up in the morning. It's when you scroll through your TikTok, through your Instagram or whatever. The advertisements, the posts, they're all designed in a way to get you to want these things. And I think I've told you guys, I used to work for like Facebook and Flickr and Yahoo, and we're part of kind of the .com boom. And when I worked there, like I said, initially it was like we just trying to get more eyeballs so that we get ad revenue and make money, and wow, that'll be so nice, and get a lot of views and a lot of downloads on our app. And initially it felt so, it's just a product that people would buy and download. It seemed harmless. But since that time, having studied this through a lot of research, I realized the effects of creating such apps and working on such technology and the addictive nature of it. And not just the addictive nature, but sort of the hope and what we want to put into this, as if this will satisfy us. And now it's more immediate than ever. Like I had to go to a store to buy this. You just look it up and you can find it. It's like every vector of your life, you're inundated with this worldview. And it's no different than this man, because back the day, this man, he was fed the same kind of things. And everyone else would have said, wow, you made it. You did it. Your barns are bursting. I want to be like you. Like, think about why you come to college. Okay, I bet most of you are STEM majors. Right? Okay, I don't want to take hands, but when I went to college back in the Jurassic period, we went to college for an education. It was about the development of our character, not our careers. Is that a good statement right there? Yeah, it's about character development, not career development. No, actually it wasn't. It was still, people were trying to get jobs back then too. But what I found is the university is supposed to be the place we're supposed to think. We're supposed to think about life. There's a thing about the meaning and purpose. And yeah, you take classes and you learn about history and sociology and science and the beauty of science and math and how that's actually all under the purview of God. He's the creator and maker of all those things. But the thing is, in college, it's more about getting the kind of vocation that you're going to have in a couple years. What kind of internship? What kind of job? Where are you going to be? That's where the world is directing and leading us to. So that when your time is short, what is your mind filled with? What are you stressed out about? I mean, your grades and your internships, and I get that. Like, that's part of what you have to do in college. But it does it so much that it squeezes out any chance for us to really think about life. That life is more than just stuff. Life is more than, and we're more than just stuff. So it's like, when are you going to pause and say, wait a minute, like, I'm poisoning myself. I'm feeding myself things that will not satisfy my soul. It would be like just eating candy all day long. It tastes so good initially. I love candy. I love Haribo sour gummy bears. It is my greatest weakness. And when I take it, I delight in that taste of sugar. But if that's all that I ate, even if I lost like 20, 30 pounds, my muscle, my body would be atrophied because all I've taken in is sugar. I've not given my body any nutrients. Well, why do we do that with our souls? Is our souls simply fed by stuff? There must be something deeper, more meaningful, in fact, more spiritual. But I tell you, in our world today, in our culture, this is the way in what we're fed. Are we more than stuff? Anthony Cashmore, University of Pennsylvania professor, says, we are simply a bag of chemicals with no more free will than a fly or bacterium, no more free will than a bowl of sugar. Atheist professor Will Provine from Cornell, he says, there are no gods, no purposeful forces of any kind, no life after death. There is no ultimate foundation for ethics, no ultimate meaning in life, and no free will for humans either. Another quote from Richard Dawkins. He says, we are survival machines, robot vehicles blindly programmed to preserve the selfish molecules known as genes. This is a truth which still fits me with astonishment. There is at bottom no design, no purpose, no evil, no good, nothing but pointless indifference. We are machines for propagating DNA. Jeremy Bentham, someone I've studied in my philosophy of ethics class, it's from the 1700s. He's a utilitarian philosopher, and he says this. He says, we are to maximize pleasure and minimize pain. That is the goal for our lives. Like, you may not think you're an atheist, and you're not. I believe in God, and I believe in following God. But the question is, your beliefs is not who you are. In reality, what do you do? How do you live? Do we live as if our bodies are simply meant to be fed? We just give in to our desires, what we want to do. That's what we follow after. And in that way, we have an atheistic worldview. Because God is out of the picture. You simply do what you want to feed your soul, your body, your soul with things, pleasures, whatever activity that is. Inundating ourselves with media, partying, drugs, whatever it is. But is it really, are you feeding your soul to be truly satisfied? That's the challenge of this text. Is that it's not simply about gaining a lot of wealth and money and success. But what is it that you feed your soul? What is it that you endeavor in? The other 6.5 days when you're not here, what do you feed yourself? That's a challenge for Christians and not. It's not a message simply for non-Christians. Because maybe some of you are here and you didn't grow up going to church and you're just checking it out, and I'm so happy that you're here to consider these questions. But even for people who are, and I hope you continue to come and check it out, but even for Christians, what is your worldview? Because you may not say, oh, I'm like Richard Dawkins and simply a physicalist and believe in only the body. But then what do you feed your soul? That's my question. What do you feed your soul? And I think we all agree, though, that we are not simply animals. We're not simply meant to feed ourselves just things. When it comes to relationships, we really believe deep down that love is not simply a matter of chemical activity, that love is genuine, relationships are genuine. None of us could really continue to get excited about life if we really deep down believe there's no meaning to life. There's no purpose. We're just machines. We're just chemicals. We're just happenstance. None of us believes that because we all believe inherently, each person here is more valuable. You're not simply a bag of chemicals and the same thing as a rock. Because we don't live that way. And the thing is, even those who accomplish the most in our world, who reach the top of the food chain, the highest, they too find themselves deeply dissatisfied. Two quotes that I found interesting from Jim Carrey and Brad Pitt. Jim Carrey says, "I think everybody should get rich and famous and do everything they ever dreamed of so they can see that it's not the answer." Brad Pitt says, "I'm the guy who's got everything, but I'm telling you, once you get everything, then you're just left with yourself. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It doesn't help you sleep any better and you don't wake up any better because of it." So again, why is it that we can have all of our creature comforts satisfied, all met, sleep, food, drink, even luxuriously met, and still find ourselves restless, discontent, lonely, even depressed? Because your soul's not meant to be fed with stuff or simply pleasures or simply excursions or trips or experiences. There is something deeper that you're meant for. But you have to see that without God, if there is no God, if we live in that view, then we simply are prescribing to a life of just being a body. And that's all that life is about. I'm going to show you a short clip from William Lane Craig. He's an apologist, philosopher, professor, and he talks about the absurdity of life without God. So let's watch this. All right, just cut it short there. But William Lane Craig at the end, he argues, and a life without God means that there is no meaning, value, or purpose. And I think his argument here is we all die, we all face the end, and if it's true that there is no God, and that's what we face, then we ought to figure out what are we doing in this life. And if there is no God, then you ought to just maximize pleasure and minimize pain. You should live it up. That's what life should be about. But my argument is that no, we know that we are more than our bodies. We know that there is a soul, like in this text, and that we're supposed to live beyond just giving into those desires. Now, aside about this, I think science and faith, now some of you may have questions about science and faith and how do they work out together. Science is bred from faith. It is the people of faith in God, actually, but people of faith back in the day, Newton and others who were Christians who produced the ideas of scientific theory. It comes from them. They're not opposed to one another. John Lennox, famous Oxford professor of math and bioethics, says this. He says, when Isaac Newton discovered the law of gravity, he did not conclude there was no God, but instead, precisely because he understood how it worked, he was moved to increase admiration for the God who had designed it that way. I think science points us to the amazing beauty and order of the world. I think of the fine-tuning argument, which states that there's so many constants of the universe of life, law of gravity, the expansion of the universe, that if they were ever so slightly different, the universe would be unlikely to even exist today. All modern scientists would agree that the universe seems to be fine-tuned for life. Even Dawkins, in his own profession, as well as Christopher Hitchens, who was another famous atheist, he said, the one argument that Christians have that I find hard to debunk, and if it's true, then it would be true that God exists, is the fine-tuned argument. And so I just posit that and say, hey, God does exist, God is real, and if he is real, then we ought to live with that in mind. Now, coming back to the text, here's where I think there's the big turn in the text. It says in verse 20, what is the problem with this rich man that he ran into? It says, but God said to him, fool. God says to him, fool. First of all, why does he call him a fool? According to the rules and the ways of the world, he's the most accomplished, most successful. He is the star child. He is the poster cover of Time, of Forbes 500, whatever. He is the one that everyone wants to be after, and yet God calls him a fool. His assessment of him is that, I think it strikes us as odd, but why? Instead of congratulations, it's almost a condemnation. What is it that he got wrong? That despite his success, he saw life only from a narrow slice of life. He saw life only in the context of how much he succeeded and how much he did. And that there was something that he was missing. Something that he was missing was what? Is that there's God. Is that there's God, and that ultimately, this night, your soul is required of you. That we all die, we all face death. And if that's true, then we need to figure out how we ought to live our lives. Like where this man went wrong, he didn't zoom out. He simply looked at that moment. And I was thinking of a story about, this happened to a friend of mine, and he made the most terrible decision to attempt a death taco challenge. Do you know what a death taco challenge is? It's just what it sounds like. You eat this taco and you could almost die. This is an actual, okay, don't go to this place, okay? My public service announcement. It actually exists on the way from here to Riverside. There is a shop where you can get tacos, and they have a death taco challenge. And this friend of mine, he thought he can handle any level of spiciness. Now the owner says he himself can no longer eat these death tacos because when he tries to eat it, his throat closes on its own. It will not let him eat the death taco. Yet knowing this information, my friend continued to proceed for the death taco. In this moment, you would say what? Exactly. You fool. Do you not know that your soul will be taken from you this very night? He saw just a narrow slice of life. What did he see? He saw his name up on the wall. He saw his picture to be posted as one who accomplished the Death Taco Challenge. And he said, I will be up there because I can do this. After eating the death taco, he could not move for 2 hours, nearly needing to go to the hospital. And definitely at that moment, you're like, you fool, what are you doing? And he vowed never to go there again, and he stopped eating all spicy food, so thank the Lord. But I don't think we're so different. You know, you see that narrow slice of life. You see that narrow thing that draws your attention. I just want that. I just want to be up there on that board. And in that moment, you just see that. You don't see the rest of life. You don't see what else is coming. The fact that there's eternity, that there's death, that we have to face a God who made us, who loves us, but is ultimately a judge, that there is an end for all of us. And so then how you live right now, what you invest in, your time, what you search, what you seek after to get the answers to those questions is paramount. But like my foolish friend, we too can say, soul, I will feed you with more things. So I will feed you with more accomplishments, more success, more experiences, romance, parties, whatever it is, without realizing that there is a God. And that's why God calls him a fool, because he got it wrong. And that's a lesson. There is a right way to live, and there is a foolish, wrong way to live. You know, as an old man here before you, the oldest person in this room. Oh, my wife is here. She's 6 months older than me, so in Korean culture, I'm supposed to call her my nuna, but I don't do that. So, because she's my wife. So, as the two oldest people in this room, from the bottom of our hearts, we say, "Hey, life is short. College is the time to figure it out. This is the time to really know what you believe and why." Even if you grew up in the church, both of us did. Yet many of our questions, what we really believed, what we were grounded on, was not something we personally owned. It's stuff that I heard, I understood. I've been to many Bible studies and church services and heard all the stories, VBS, whatever. I was part of the praise team, a youth leader. But did I really understand the gospel and what it meant to have a relationship with Jesus? I didn't. And it's in college in those years when I really came to understand what it means to know God. And so we implore you, man, live wisely. There is a wise way to live. There is a wise way to live. Don't be like the fool here who simply invested in himself, simply invested in that moment. Do you not know this night your soul is required of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be? Man, he didn't know this. Why? I think it's because he didn't think about it. We need to think about these things. Like I said, college teaches you so much about STEM, bio, chemistry, math, physics, CS, whatever. But it will not teach you about the questions and principles of life, of how you're supposed to live. What does the Bible have to do and say with your life? So this is why we need to consider eternity, because there's more than this life. And I want each of you to be able to know where you will be for eternity. That is the most important question to answer in your life. You know, and I know this is a heavy topic. Like the example that I talked about, the Baptist bus. I'm not trying to pull that on you, like, hey, you don't know what's going to happen when you walk out these doors. It's not to guilt trip you. It's not to like manipulate you. It's just, hey, can we be real about life and what happens? And if this is true of life, then why not take advantage of the opportunity that you have? College, you got time. You got time to think, question, talk. Some people are taking Course 101, which is Introduction to Christian Foundations and the basics. You can learn what that means. You can meet with one of the mentors, upperclassmen, and read the Bible, talk about it. I have office hours. Ellen, we have office hours. You don't get any credit for doing anything with us. I'm not tied to the school, but you can come to our office hours and we can impart our decades of old people wisdom to you. And which would just be like, hey, what are the questions? What are the answers? And we want to help you to answer that. You know, despite all the medical advances of our world, the mortality rate has never changed. It's still 100%. We all face the end. And I just want you, you know, you're young, and like I said to that interviewer who interviewed me, like, yeah, it's a heavy message, but like this is when you can take it seriously and you can make the most of it. Here's the truth. Every successful person lives with the end in mind, because depending on where you're headed, you know how you ought to live. Now, I just want to end with, you know, on your sheet, I gave you a verse sheet with the text as well as the gospel acronym. And in the few minutes that we have left, I just want to run through this real quick with us together. I think it's important. We're talking about the primary colors of the gospel. And look, I don't know what religious background you're from or even church background. You might be from a different denomination or grew up, you know, with a different kind of way you practiced. That's fine. What I'm talking about is the primary colors, the basic gospel, that no matter what denomination, where you grew up, those things are all peripheral. We're talking about the core of Christianity, what C.S. Lewis would call mere Christianity. And so I want to present that to you guys today. And the first one that we see is G, and it's that God created us to be with him. In Genesis, God made the heavens and the earth. He spoke it into existence. He went through the different days to create, and he took a formless vacuum void and made something out of it. He created order out of the chaos. He created life. He filled that void, and it was good. Every day, it was good, it was good, it was good. And then the text slows down, and it comes to man and woman, mankind. And in that moment, he takes his time. He doesn't simply speak into existence. He slowly creates like Michelangelo with that piece of marble, chipping away, shaping, and creating the perfect piece of work, artwork. And so he made man. And when he made man, he said it was very good. And then he made Eve, and it was very, very good. No, he doesn't say that in the text. But I just want to give an interesting side note, because some people are like, oh, why did he make Eve later? Well, first of all, he like it had to come out of Adam, right? So that's what the story says. But if you think about it, in creation, order goes from lesser to greater, from simple to more complex, from chaotic to ordered. So just the text, that's just what it says. You know, it's fascinating that, you know, you get all these plants, animals, and then you get man, and then, oh, woman. It's like, whoa. And I can tell you, my wife, she saves my life. Like, without her, where would I be, right? So it's good. And then, of course, it says it's not good for man to be alone. And so that's why he created Eve. That's just, you know, there's a creation progression that leads to higher order of beings. That's all we see, so. And then, but what does it say? It says that God said, let us make mankind in our image and our likeness. Apart from all of the creatures, all the things, God made us. We are to be like him. Our essence comes from our creator, God. And it's to have a relationship with him at the deepest level. And imagine Adam and Eve walking with the Lord in the cool of the day. They just are fellowshipping and connected with him. That's the way that it's meant to be, in close relationship with him. But what happened is that our sin separated us from God. What is sin? Sin is not simply moral commandments that you've broken, although it's related to that. It's missing the mark. It's going against his character. It is breaking his commands. It's rejecting his authority over your life. It's ultimately saying to God, when Adam and Eve, when they rebelled, taking that fruit from the tree, the fruit could have been anything. It could have been a button. It could have been a stone you stepped on. It's simply a matter of the willful act of saying, God, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to let you be the final word. I will have the final word in my life. And that's what we see in Genesis 2:16 to 17. When he said, "You are free to eat from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat of it, you will certainly die." What he's saying is I have one prohibition, a vast garden of beautiful, luscious green and fruits that you can have. God didn't put them in a desert and said, all right, there's nothing but this tree, don't eat it. No, he put them in a beautiful, lush garden that he created. But the one prohibition was a sign of the relationship. And when they sinned, everything changed. Their eyes were open. Both of them realized that they were naked, embarrassed, shame enters in. Insecurity, fear, guilt. And that's where it says, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, that each of us, we have made this willful choice and decision. They didn't make it for us, but in a way we ourselves have made for our own lives. Finally, or next is S. Sins cannot be removed by good deeds because we could never be good enough to enter God's presence. He is holy. He is perfect. But his desire is for us to be like him. It says, be perfect like your heavenly Father is perfect. Now, the law is there. The commandments are there as a mirror to show us our sins, and it's not a ladder for us to get to heaven. The law is not there to say, if you complete and be perfect in all these ways, then you will get to heaven. It's just not possible. So it's not about doing good deeds. That doesn't reach the heavens. And even here, it says in Isaiah, all our righteous acts are like filthy deeds, filthy rags. So what did God do? So Jesus paying the price for sin, Jesus died and he rose again. Jesus was the only one qualified to pay for our sins. As a perfect human, he could die for everyone else. As the eternal payment that was required, he could do it. And it says in Hebrews 9, just as people are destined to die once and after that to face judgment, so Christ was sacrificed once to take away the sins of many. We deserve to be punished for our sins against a holy God. But Jesus loved us and took our place. He died in our place. And his resurrection proves that he is who he claimed to be, that is the Son of God. And everyone who trusts in him alone has eternal life. We are saved by grace through faith, not good deeds. We are justified by God through faith in Jesus alone. Jesus has exchanged our sin for his righteousness. Justification, this fancy word, is a legal term that just means we are declared righteous. We are declared right. And that happens when we trust in Jesus, who exchanges our sins for his righteousness. And it says in 2 Corinthians 5, God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. And finally, L, life with Jesus starts now and lasts forever. Eternal life begins as soon as you believe in this. Jesus says, I tell you the truth, anyone who believes has eternal life. That's because love is meant to be forever. When I look at my daughter while she's sleeping in her bed, she doesn't know, scary maybe, but I'm the dad, so I go in there. Actually, both of us, we do that. We love to go in late at night with our youngest there, our kids, open the door, the hallway light casts a beam of light across the room over their bed, and we see them sleeping, breathing. And I tell you, I can sit there and stand there forever because love is forever. And I go, why does this have to end? My grandmother passed away when she was like 100 plus. I was sad. It hit me. But I knew she was old. She was going to pass. But I was sad because I thought, even though I know she's old and she's going to die, why does it have to be that way? I don't think there's any person in this room when you encounter death that you go, oh, this was right. Yeah, this is how we're supposed to be. All of us cry out against that because we know life is meant to be more than just what's here within the ends of our lives, the beginning and the end. There's more to life. And so Jesus guarantees that we can have eternal life because that's how it's meant to be. And my final challenge to you from all of this, life is short. Life is short, so what? Life is short, so investigate. Life is short, so give Jesus lordship. Life is short, follow him. Jesus is the most important person who has walked the face of this earth. That's what Time magazine has said, so it must be true. No, over the past 2,000 years, look at all the world religions. The dividing point is Jesus Christ. He is the cornerstone that people say you will stumble on. That is the truth. You need to know who Jesus Christ really is, because in him is the truth of the gospel. Even non-Christian scholars like Bart Ehrman from North Carolina will say, I don't think there's any serious historian who doubts the existence of Jesus. We have more evidence for Jesus than we have for almost anybody from this time period. And he is against Christians, let me just say. He's one of the fiercest opponents against Christians. Even Napoleon says, I know men, and I tell you that Jesus Christ is no mere man. Between him and every other person in the world, there is no possible term of comparison. Alexander, Caesar, Charlemagne, and myself founded empires, but what foundation did we rest the creations of our genius upon force? Jesus Christ founded an empire upon love, and at this hour millions of men would die for him. That's a huge claim. That's a huge claim. So ought we to know who this Jesus really is? And if you're a Christian, man, shouldn't the gospel become sweeter, more powerful, more relevant in your life each day? This truth should not change. It should only get deeper and more true for you so that your life becomes even more wedded to the power of the gospel. So to close out our time, we're going to have the band come up and do a song for us. So I want to invite them up. But as they come up, I just want you to just talk to your neighbor. Man, what point stood out to you? Maybe from the gospel acrostic or something from the text today. So go ahead and just discuss with your neighbor.
Okay. This song is called Live It Well. It goes like this. Life is short, I want to live it well. One life, one story to tell. Life is short, I want to live it well. And you're the one I'm living for. Awaken, oh my soul. Every breath that you take is a miracle. Life is short, I want to live it well. Hey, 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 hey. Take the burden from my arms. Take the anchors off my lungs. Take me broken and make me warm. Break the silence and make it a song. Life is short, I wanna live it well. One life, one story to tell. Life is short, I wanna live it well. And you're the one I'm living for. Awaken, oh my soul. Every breath that you take is a miracle. Life is short, I wanna live it well. Yeah, I wanna sing with all my heart the lifelong song. And even if some notes come out right and some come out wrong, cause I can't take none of that through the door. Yeah, I'm living for more than just a funeral. I wanna burn brighter than the dawn. Hey, life is short, I wanna live it well. One life, one story to tell. Life is short, I wanna live it well. And you're the one I'm living for. Awaken, oh my soul. Every breath that you take is a miracle. Life is short, I wanna live it well. Yeah, I got one life and one love. I got one voice. Maybe that's enough. Cause with one heartbeat, two hands to give, I got one shot and one life to live. One life to live. Yeah. Oh. And every breath you take is a miracle. Life is short, I wanna live it well. One life, one story to tell. Life is short, I wanna live it well. got one voice, and that's enough. 'Cause with one heartbeat, two hands to give, I got one life, one shot to live, one life to live. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let's pray together. I just want to give you a moment. Today I presented the gospel, and you got to hear from the word today of a man who didn't live it well. I mean, it seemed like it to the world, but he was missing something, and that was knowing who God is, knowing his end. And so I just want to ask you to maybe just offer a quiet prayer to God in response to what you heard today. Maybe how you need to live differently in light of all that you heard today. So I just want to give us a space to just respond in personal prayer, and then I'll close this out.